This program was made possible by the law firm of Zalman and Schnorman, whose practice is limited to personal injury and insurance law. Welcome to Lawline with your host, Alan Schnorman. Mr. Schnorman is a distinguished trial attorney, author, and lecturer. Each week, Lawline will bring you the most knowledgeable experts in the field of law today. And now, we introduce our guests and our host, Alan Schnorman.
Welcome to Lawline. The shocking revelation that an HIV-positive 20-year-old purposely infected numerous young women brought the tragic reality of AIDS home to a small rural community in upstate New York. Today we'll look at the AIDS Confidentiality Bill and see whether new measures are needed to protect the public from AIDS predators. Our guests are Assemblywoman Nettie Mayerson of Queens, who is co-sponsoring a bill to end blanket HIV confidentiality, and Catherine Hansens, the AIDS Project Director for Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund. Hello, Assemblywoman Mayerson. Ms. Hansen, tell us, what is this confidentiality bill, the partner notification bill? What does it do?
What the partner notification bill will do is, if somebody tests positive for HIV, the doctor would have to notify the health department. The health department would call in counselors, speak to the patient, to the individual, try to solicit names of needle sharing or sex partners from him, and then do some really aggressive contact tracing. But let me give you a little of the background, because the new Sean Williams case just put a focus on what's been happening anyway in the way we deal with this epidemic. About 3 years ago, and my bill, by the way, is 3 years old, I introduced, I was reading some articles in the newspapers about women, nice, middle-class, suburban women, who had no clue that they were at risk and didn't find out that they were at risk until their husband became...
What does this have to do with confidentiality?
I will get to it. Well, be patient, Catherine. You'll get it. You'll get the point.
What Catherine is bringing out...
It takes Catherine a little longer than most.
No, that's okay. What she's bringing out is...
No, I'm talking about a situation that we have been... The way we have been dealing with this disease from the very beginning is putting people at risk.
What you're really saying is, with your...
focusing on criminalization rather than prevention.
We are not
focusing. Right now, in the state legislature, I checked today, and there are 54 bills pending related to HIV. One of them has to do with concentrated prevention efforts targeting homeless youth, trying to get these kids before they're infected.
What has that got to do with the bill that we're talking about?
And of course, Nettie does not support this. Why do you not support prevention?
I do not.
Why do we not care about these people
because
before they get infected?
Prevention to me means exactly what we did with tuberculosis and syphilis.
Which is
telling people who are at risk, the spouse of an HIV individual, the child of an HIV mother, telling people who are at risk and protecting them from infection. That is, we have played with education and clean needles. What do you do in the case of a married woman who doesn't know that her husband has HIV?
How do you respond to that?
Well, what do you do with the married woman whose husband sleeps with 10 or 20 people and comes home and tells her he's loyal and faithful and hasn't had an HIV test? What Nettie is proposing is we criminalize knowledge of HIV.
No, that has nothing to do with my legislation. My legislation is a common sense bill. It says when someone is infected with HIV and the doctor becomes aware of it, he goes in for an HIV test and he tests positive, that the information be made available to his partner who hasn't got a clue that her husband has it.
Let me just ask one question. Now, the party is notified they're HIV positive.
Right.
And they're called into their doctor. The doctor asks, who are your partners?
Right.
Does their name go to any centralized bureau that they have that they've proven to be HIV positive under your bill?
There will be name reporting. The name has to be reported. Confidentiality will be protected just as we protect it with syphilis and other diseases. We will protect, we're not putting this information in the New York Times.
But Ms. Marsh-
We are telling people who have to know that they are at risk. We are telling them that they have to protect
But again,
themselves.
their names will go into, I assume, some health department record indicating that they have, that they're AIDS positive.
It's HIV positive.
Right. How do you respond?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, our current New York confidentiality law does not have blanket confidentiality. There are 16 different exceptions for private folks that get this information, a whole range of exceptions, and there are additional exceptions beyond that. Obviously, there are exceptions because otherwise we would not have had new Sean Williams' face plastered all over the country along with his HIV status.
First time. I'll interrupt
Yes.
occasionally too. First time this has ever happened.
And a terribly destructive act. A terribly destructive act,
Tell me
which I
it
would like
isn't
to-
happening over and over again in New York City today. That new Sean William in the 15 years of the epidemic is the only one who's been going around deliberately infecting people. Tell me it's not happening in
And then-
New York City and ask me to believe it.
This is a perfect sort of illustration, the hysteria, and then we're going to focus a little on the facts. The other fact is that the current New York confidentiality law does in fact provide for partner notification. And what happens is that the doctor who does the testing talks to this person, advises them of the need to talk to contacts, offers to do that themselves or through a public health person, counsels a person, and if they are not convinced that this is going to happen, is authorized to do that themselves.
Okay.
So this already does happen. But the question is, the problem is that it seems to me if you really want to stop an epidemic, it's a little late waiting for the horse to be out of the barn, and that's a lot what our legislature
Can I address her
One at a
point?
time, please.
Testing and punishing has nothing to do
What
with
punishment are we giving? What punishment? What is the
Okay, let's,
punishment?
you know,
No,
majority
she's
of bills
making
pending-
statements.
The
I
majority
have
of
to-
bills pending have to do with increased
Are we
criminal
talking about
penalties.
my bill,
In fact,
or are we
one of
talking,
many
I don't even know
Morrison's
the other
would make it a
bills.
crime to have consensual gay sex. That's another
Oh, I
bill.
cannot believe that you're saying that. That's my bill?
That's your bill.
She is absolutely that is absolutely, let me tell you.
now
what-
respond.
Okay,
Respond.
let me talk first about what happens in the doctor's office. Under the confidentiality laws that they created in 1988, the doctor is authorized to report the HIV condition of his patient to the spouse if he reasonably believes that the spouse is not going to give his partner that information.
Okay.
The problem is that doctors, if some judge in Manhattan decides the doctor acted unreasonably, he faces a year in prison and a $5,000 fine. So guess what? Doctors are not notifying
That is not
anyone.
true. The
That
law
is
specifically
absolutely zero
explicitly
notification.
precludes from any liability, anybody who acts
Absolutely not
with
true.
with good intentions under
Not
the
true.
Act.
You
That's true.
speak to the State Medical Society, and they will tell you that doctors are not doing the notification because they are not going to risk the lawsuit.
So we could
So
change
we
that
are-
aspect.
we
if
can-
that
we
was not
are,
sufficiently
exactly.
clear.
We are
But there's-
changing.
but the point is, it already happened.
And I do not have, what legislation are you talking about that I have
Well, your name is on
introduced?
it. If we
Are you
could
talking
take a
about the
break.
Kaufman bill?
I'm talking about a bill that was introduced this year that would criminalize certain types of sexual activity, and you were one of the sponsors of
if
it.
you're
Between
talking-
consenting adults.
One of them is
No.
it criminalizes, adds criminal penalties to not only rape and to sexual abuse, but to what it calls sodomy.
Now, do you-
And one of the categories.
I don't know, where are you
and one
getting
of the
this
categories
information?
is for
This
consensual.
is
Well, Betty, you
misinformation,
should sign-
absolute.
you
I
should
will
read
tell
the
you what,
bills
I'll tell you
with
what
the
happened
names
with
on.
our rape bill. I will tell you what happened. We had a bill 2 years ago, Assemblyman Kaufman introduced legislation, and I was a co-sponsor on that bill. And the bill says that at the request of the victim, an HIV test will be required to be performed on the rapist after conviction. After conviction, That if the rape victim
That's just
wanted
the bill,
it-
that's not the law.
No,
That
that's
is
the
law.
law.
That
That
is
is
the law,
law. If the rape victim wants
Right.
an HIV test of the rapist, because today victims have to deal not
Okay.
only with the rape, they have to deal with the trauma of worrying about whether they're HIV positive.
And that's what we were talking about.
And this is the bill that was passed in the assemblies and is now law. Assemblyman Kaufman has since introduced legislation which says upon arraignment, the victim may request an HIV test of
As
the-
opposed to conviction.
as opposed to conviction, because conviction is 2 years down the road. Rape victims want this information as soon as possible.
Which they can get by
And
a
this-
viral load test within 7 days after they've been assaulted. Their own HIV.
You see, this is the
which of course,
argument.
what tells
This
them whether
is
or not they
the
get
argument of the activists, and this is what is
Well, no,
really so
it's the argument-
frustrating.
it's the argument of someone-
The rape victim can...
It's the argument of someone who's had a friend who was raped, and
Oh,
so
come
as
on.
somebody
We all
who...
have friends, we all know people.
Oh,
That
well,
is
it's
not...
very easy of you to
that
be
is not
dismissive,
what
but
we're
if I'm
talking
caring about the health of my friend,
Yes.
I don't want them to
What is
hinge their
wrong-
decisions
what
on
is
their
wrong-
assumptions about the health of somebody else.
What is wrong
It's not
with
helpful,
testing
Nettie.
them
Okay.
both?
It's hysterical.
What is wrong with testing?
What is helpful
The victim
about it?
has to be counseled.
Let's see if we can get back to where we are here. First, what is the status?
Welcome to Albany.
What is the status of the epidemic now? First, nationally. I know you're involved nationally. How many people with AIDS are there in the United States?
Well, I think the big picture, the big news is that the number of AIDS cases has, I think this is probably something we can agree on, that it has declined, and a lot of that is due
When you say
to
the number of AIDS cases or the
Cases means-
percentage of increase?
The actual number
Okay.
has declined, and that means that for most populations, the rates are going
How many
down.
people have AIDS
Except
now?
among women. Except
right.
among women. That's
Women
where the
and
rate
youth.
of increase is going
That's
up.
What is the youth? What age group?
Well, we're talking about, say, 12 or 13 to 21 is generally considered
So
youth.
that group and women are increasing?
That's right. That rate is going up. That rate is going up.
Exactly.
And
We have about almost 1 million cases. This is reportable AIDS cases in the country.
That's
When
right.
you say AIDS cases, are we talking about HIV or AIDS?
We don't
Diagnosed
know
cases
how
of
many.
AIDS.
Only 27 states, name reporting is done in 27 states. And unfortunately, the big states like California and New York don't have HIV reporting.
Statistically, are there any estimates on how many people are HIV positive in the United States?
They estimated at double the number of AIDS
So we
cases.
have possibly 2 million people who are HIV positive,
Possibly.
1 million with AIDS.
The estimates are actually closer to 1 million of people who are HIV positive.
And of
There's
those who
no
are
way.
HIV positive, how many actually know they're HIV positive? What statistics are they showing on that?
Probably fewer than half.
So we probably have hundreds of thousands of people now
Right.
who are HIV positive, who could very well have AIDS later on and infecting other people.
Which is, and this is what you're asking is a very important question, because all those statistics matter. If most people are not getting tested, and if we know, studies show that most people, not the aberrant case that we were talking about today, but most people behave more safely once they know, then we want people to get tested. So how do we motivate people to get tested? How do we motivate them to get tested? There have been, at this point, more than a dozen studies in different states of what happens in cases in states where there is names reporting, and when people are asked how whether they can do it anonymously or have their names reported will affect whether they get tested. And every single study shows
Not true.
that names
It's just
reporting
not true. I
that
just
names
looked at a
reporting
report from South
that names
Carolina where they
reporting
showed that the
discourages
name
people from
reporting
testing.
does not discourage. In fact, it's very helpful because many people have difficulty giving their spouses or their partners the
let me-
No, I think you're
Excuse me,
confusing it with
No, I'm
with
not-
spousal notification.
No, I'm
one second.
not
Getting
confusing
confused.
with
Excuse me, one
spousal.
second.
I'm talking about
Assemblywoman
partners.
Niasen,
Yes.
answer me this
Yes.
question so I don't
Okay.
get confused. All right, under your bill, the person is HIV positive, they come in, does the doctor say, you're single, Tell me who your partners are. Tell me who your sexual partners were in the last year.
No, it's turned over to the health department.
And the health department does that?
With professional counselors will sit down, just as they did in the neutral.
And they will say, tell me who, over the last, what period of time?
They will counsel them. And
I understand that.
They will try to solicit the information.
Of who you've had sex
Right.
with over what period of time?
As far back as you can go.
Okay.
I mean,
And then do they-
a person can be HIV
And
positive
then
for
would the
10
health
years.
department actually go to these people and say, listen, we've been given your name as one of the sexual partners of so-and-so.
No, you don't say so-and-so. That part is kept confidential.
So
We have been given your name. We know you have been exposed to HIV. We would ask you to take an HIV test. It's done in a very reasonable, professional manner with all of the counseling that we have available to us to try to get people to do voluntarily what they, because we're not going to
What's your
force
position on that?
information.
Well, I think that we already have partner notification, and I think, I mean, this is
We already have partner
Well, as
notification?
I said, we do.
We do not.
I'm a lawyer. I read the act.
Okay, I will give you the statistics.
Excuse me, tell me
But I'm
what,
saying the law allows for it now. But the thing is, AIDS is serious business. I mean, Nettie's right.
Well, it's death.
To the extent.
It's death.
Well, no, it's not. That overstates it a bit. It doesn't have to be death to be serious. And in fact, lots of people aren't dying and won't die.
Okay.
But plenty will. It's serious business. It's affecting lots of people. It has horrific impacts for families. No doubt about that. The question, so then, if we really want to be serious about this, we have some responsibility, whether we're politicians or lawyers, to apply the law and look at public health, and look at public health history and principles, okay? So we have to look and see, does partner notification work? I heard you sort of asking a question. What you were sort of asking is, well, doesn't this all work on somebody cooperating? I mean, if I'm talking to a representative of an organization or a department or a government that I feel is mostly interested in enacting laws to punish me, I'm not sure I'm going to say, yeah, I'm anything more than I'm having sex with John Doe.
we have to take a break now. We'll be right back. You're watching Lawline. I'm Alan Schnorman, your host. Stay with us. Hello, I'm Alan Schnorman. Most of you know me as the host of Lawline, and for the past 16 years you've been watching me interview some of the most knowledgeable experts in the field of law. By now you understand the importance of choosing the right attorney to represent you. So, with so many personal injury attorneys to choose from, how do you know who to call? At Zalman and Schnorman, between myself and my partner Ben Zalman, we have over 50 years of litigation experience, and I'm proud to say a proven record of satisfied clients. Our goal is to make certain you receive fair and equitable compensation for your injury. So if you've been injured in an accident of any kind, including a construction accident, a motor vehicle accident, a fall-down accident, call us at 1-800-LAWLINE. We'll be happy to speak to you and evaluate your case, and there is no fee. If it is impossible for you to come to our office, we will come to see you. We know that this could be a very difficult time in your life, and we're there to help you. So call us at 1-800-LAWLINE. Hello, you're watching Lawline. I'm Alan Schnorman, your host. Today we're talking about AIDS Confidentiality Bill. We have Assemblywoman Nettie Mayerson from Queens and Catherine Hansen from the Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund. Ms. Hansen, tell me this. Today, if I have AIDS and I have unprotected sex with another person, must I notify that person I have AIDS?
Ethically, yes.
No, I'm talking about legally.
There is no legal requirement that anybody with AIDS, hepatitis, syphilis, or any disease notify a
But now,
partner. Right.
let's assume that person that I've just had unprotected sex with comes down with AIDS because
Well, they're going to become HIV infected, although the chance in a single contact
have
is
I
less
committed
than-
a crime?
No.
No. you
Under today's laws, you have not committed a crime. I don't know if you saw Alan Mayer, he's an architect, HIV positive, wrote an article in Sunday's Times. And it was really very revealing about how these groups counsel people, how groups like Lambda and GMHC counsel people.
We don't-
He said
we're not
he
in
said
direct
he
AIDS
went-
services, we're a
He said
litigation
he
policy
went, he
outfit.
called. He knew he was HIV positive. He called GMHC to find out
Gay men's health crisis.
Gay men's health crisis to find out what he should be doing in terms of notifying his partners. And they said, well, do what you feel comfortable with. This is what Alan Mayer says in this article. If you might want to notify some of your partners, not notify others, and finally do whatever you're comfortable with. This has been the way we have treated this disease from day one.
It is not
and
the way
it is
we
not
have treated
abating.
it.
It is not going away.
And the major problem is that we have an entirely
Give her one chance to finish.
I must tell you how confidentiality laws are interpreted in this state. We had 1,800 babies a year who were testing positive for HIV at birth. We had a blind testing program that was run by the CDC, and every baby...
Center for Disease Control in Atlanta.
Right. Centers for Disease, the guardian of public health in this country. And every baby in New York State was being tested for HIV, and something like 1,800 babies were tested positive. And we were not permitted to tell the mother. Confidentiality laws were interpreted to mean that you cannot tell the mother that her baby has tested HIV positive, and babies were dying of pneumocystis pneumonia because we weren't able to give mothers the information they had to have to get
And now?
Now, as a result of a law that I passed in the Assembly, and we passed it in the Senate, it was my bill, mothers are now notified, babies are tested, every baby continues to be tested, mothers are notified of the test results, and we're getting the babies into treatment and we're getting the mothers into treatment.
Ms. Hanson?
Well, the problem is that there was nothing, the screening program was a blind screening that was instituted to get seroprevalence records. I mean, if you really care about public health stuff, you don't start one program and try to turn it into something else. It had nothing to do with the confidentiality laws, and in fact, any mother in any of those cases that wanted to have, or was counseled to have, an HIV tester to know her baby's status, in fact, could, and that's why in places like Harlem Hospital, more than 90% of the women there would voluntarily seek testing. So I think the bill went into, we're talking about something that's been ineffective in less than a year. People who actually work with these women and provide health care are extremely concerned.
These are the same groups. As a matter of fact, the HIV Law Project, which is one of the AIDS advocacy groups, has brought, but you're on the same wavelength, brought a lawsuit against the law to try to stop the implementation. But let me tell you, before we found what was happening, before we started, we passed the bill. 60% of the babies were going home infected, coming back 6 months later dying of pneumocystis pneumonia. We now have a bill where 98.5% of the babies are being identified, the mothers are in treatment, the law is working so well, and we have AIDS advocate bringing a lawsuit against implementation to stop the implementation of the bill.
I'm not working on that case, and that's, of course, the sponsor's characterization of the bill, and I don't even want to get into that because I'm not representing.
I welcome it. Get into it. Answer. Why is it?
Ask a question. You didn't ask a question. But let me talk about, I just want to raise something about traditional public health and traditional, what Nettie says
is it your organization and your position that you're against any sort of notification, or is it?
No.
What was your position on the baby bill?
I'm going to answer his question.
Okay.
He's the host.
Okay.
Our position is that in order to support some kind of a public health measure, there should be some kind of evidence that it's going to do more harm, that it's going to do more good than harm. And I think that is the kind of standard that we apply and that we ask all politicians to also apply.
What do you seek? Excuse me. What do you seek? What is the good that you hope to come out of this bill?
When they talk about, I must go back to the baby bill because I must repeat the arguments that I was getting that women would flee the healthcare system. The argument here is the same argument that the people will go underground and won't come in to be tested. Today, there's treatment. Early identification.
Let me see if I can get a promise from you here.
Early identification is extremely important.
Tell me on the confidential.
Traditional public health, please.
Ms. Hanson, 1 second, please.
talk about
Excuse me.
tuberculosis on traditional public health.
Yes, I do want to talk about
Yes,
that. Can
you
we
can.
agree to talk about that? This is the traditional
Okay.
public health
lost
intervention. This is the traditional public
Ms.
health
Hanson,
intervention.
please, tell me what you seek to achieve by your partner notification bill. What's the optimum?
Okay, the
optimum good.
To get as many people aware of the fact that they are at risk as possible. To get people to where they are at risk to be able to protect
Okay.
themselves.
And what is your objection to that?
The focus has to be on prevention. I can't say it enough. Prevention, prevention,
agree.
prevention.
We
What-
agree.
what
Prevention does
We
not.
agree.
Prevention involves getting information to people that does not have their safety hinge on what they know about somebody's HIV status. The real tragedy of Nishan Williams is that every single one of those infections was preventable if those women were empowered and educated to protect themselves.
I must
And let
come
me-
in on
and
this
if we
one.
can talk about-
Chautauqua County has sex education starting in grade 5. Children as young as...
Abstinence
I
ed.
don't care what it is.
Well, you should care, because it matters a great deal as to whether or not it works.
Well, you think teaching children how to use condoms is...
We rely
that's been
on
the
our
argument from
legislators.
very-
We rely on our
That's been
legislators
the
to
argument.
be
Give them clean
professional,
needles
not
and
political.
sex education and teach them about how to use condoms in the early grades. I have no problem. I support clean needles. I have no problem with sex education. But there are other public
I have
health
a question.
strategies that are
On the
equally important.
On the Newsom Williams case, one district attorney is now contemplating of charging him with a crime.
Right. And
Now,
reckless
but-
endangerment.
But you're indicating that here you are, you're the maker of the laws. Do you know of any crime we're talking about?
Currently, their best hope is the statutory rape, because there really is no crime for infecting other people.
Statutory rape, well, that has nothing to do with AIDS. That would do
There
if
is
he
no
was
crime.
AIDS-free.
In fact, Assemblyman Kaplan has introduced legislation that says if you knowingly infect someone with HIV, if you know, not knowingly infect, if you know you're HIV positive and you don't inform your partner, that's aggravated reckless endangerment.
How do you
He's
feel about
introduced the
that?
legislation.
I feel that it creates more problems and devotes resources, again, after 15 years, on this notion that the way we protect ourselves is to focus on the HIV status of somebody else. If I would not want my children or people I care about to have their safety hinge on what they trust somebody else to tell them. It's bad public health.
Assemblywoman Meyerson, if
Bad
I had a
public
crystal
health.
ball
Right.
here, where is the AIDS epidemic going to be, in your opinion? You're a member of the Health Committee.
Right.
In 5 years, in 10 years, where are we heading?
If we get public health strategies in place, the same strategies we use when we announce this big reduction in
Quickly.
tuberculosis. If we get
Quickly.
these strategies in place, we can move a long way to stopping the spread of the disease.
Where do you see we're headed?
If with this prescription disaster, if we want real public health prevention, we should do public health, which is prevention and treatment. If you guarantee everybody who's identified that they will get
Nettie
treatment,
Meyerson,
they have a
Assemblywoman Nettie Meyerson, thank you very much
You're
for
not
appearing.
supporting I count on you to get out there and do
Excuse me,
something.
ladies,
about it.
ladies, let me say
Identification,
goodbye.
Diagnosis is
Goodbye,
the first
Ellen.
step.
Thank
There was Ms. Hanson, Assemblywoman Meyerson, thank you very much
Thank
for being
you.
on Lawline. And as always, this is Alan Schnorman, and thank you for watching Lawline.
You have been watching Lawline with your host, New York trial attorney Alan Schnorman. Mr. Schnorman will be back with you next week at the same time. If you have any questions about this week's program, please write to Lawline, 63 Wall Street, New York, New York, 10005, or call area code 212-432-9111. This program was made possible by the law firm of Zalman and Schnorman, whose practice is limited to personal injury and insurance law.